Thank you very much, Dieter, for that presentation. That was really great to see the lab in Berlin. That was a treat for me. So thanks everyone for being here. I'm going to talk about a little bit of an overview of Pivotal and what we do and what we're all about and why we're here. So a bit of the history of Pivotal. Pivotal Labs was founded many, many years ago, actually in 1989. And we were originally incorporated under the founders' names, which were Erskine Fraser and me in 1989. And we stayed that way for a few years until my mom, who is from the Midlands and really valued the importance of naming, said, "You can't sound like a solicitor's office forever, and you need a real name." And so she went off and made a few lists of a few hundred names, none of which she allowed me to see. She came back and said, "I've been over all the names. The best one is Pivotal." And so I said, "Right, Mom? That's what we'll do." So that's how we got our name. We worked with many influential Silicon Valley companies for a number of years, helping them adopt new methods of software development, modern methodology, agile methods. This is software development that's optimized for change, as many of you know. And then something really interesting happened in 2012. Pivotal Labs was acquired by EMC, and then a year later we were spun out and combined with a lot of other technologies, including the cloud platform, Cloud Foundry, a number of data assets, into a new company. And we called that company Pivotal because it's kind of a cool name. And really the new company, although it was quite a bit larger, just went, from my perspective, 250 people suddenly to 1,250 overnight. But the core of the company was the culture that we developed at the labs, and the way that we worked, the culture that we had. A lot of, you've seen a lot of that already. But that was really the heart of the company. And Paul Moritz, who had been the CEO at VMware and was a very well-known person from Microsoft in the past, one of the leaders at Microsoft, became our CEO at that time. A year ago, last summer, I took over as CEO. And Paul retired and became our chairman. He's still the chairman of our board. But I took over as CEO a little bit over a year ago. In 2016, now, really what our mission has become is to help companies around the world in a digital transformation and really rediscovering software development and becoming better at that. So, we've had a few investors. After we were spun out and became an independent company from EMC, with investment from EMC and VMware, GE also invested in us. And they're going through quite a digital transformation themselves and becoming a digital services provider. In a recent round, we also had an investment round that was led by Ford and joined by Microsoft. So those are the investors at the moment. And this is our mission, to transform how the world builds software. And we came up with that mission a number of years ago, and it was kind of interesting how it happened. It was at a time when one of the people that's been working with me for the longest, Edward Hyatt, who now runs all of services at Pivotal, and he said to me, "Rob, we've survived for all these years without a mission statement, and the company really wants one, and they really want a set of values." And of course, being a software engineer at heart, I'm sort of allergic to the posters up on the wall with clouds and doves flying and a list of values. It's really hard for me to, but he said, "Hey, we really need to do these kinds of things and provide some more guidance for that." And so this is quite a few years ago, and I said, "All right, fine. Well, this is really what we're trying to do, isn't it? But we can't really say that. I mean, that would be sort of grandiose, wouldn't it?" And but he said, "No, this is what we want to do. So let's say it." And so we did. And I think that actually today, at the scale that we are, we have 2,500 employees. We're approaching 20 Pivotal Labs offices around the world. I feel like we're working with many of the world's largest companies, helping them transform how they build software. Okay, I think we can begin to say this, and I don't sort of cringe a little bit and shy away and say, "Gosh, that sounds so grandiose." It really feels like that's what we're doing. So this is one something that Paul Maritz said quite a bit. The drivers of transformation are fear and hope. So it's one of the famous sayings from Jamie Dimon, who is head of J.P. Morgan Chase. That Silicon Valley is coming. And I believe he said something about they all want to eat our lunch. And here are many of the disruptors. Pivotal has been working with these companies and others like them for many, many years. And they are indeed disrupting, and they're disrupting through software. So what makes them capable of disruption? Well, really, they're able to do things like release software in minutes. They can do it on clouds. They can do it all over the world. These are things that these companies are capable of doing. They're fast. They're agile. Right. So where's the hope in this? Right. This is, the other side of the coin of being disrupted by all these software companies. Well, you can become a software company too, and probably, if you're a large company, whatever industry you're in, you're becoming a software company. At some level, you have the equivalent of a software company. You need it, right? And so, this is sort of a screen with some of the new disruptors as I see them. They're all transforming how they build software. There's many more, some in this audience, I'm sure. So when we talk about becoming a software company, right, and operating at startup speed, there's a couple of things that are really needed. And these things are modern cloud platform, modern approach to software development, and very powerful data tools that are integrated with your software. And the interesting thing about the first two of those, that's very different for enterprise companies than it is for software development startups, companies like Google, companies like Uber, is those first two are really taken for granted and have been for a number of years. So, when an Uber developer needs some more capacity, he doesn't file a ticket with an IT department and ask for a new server. Right? That's not the way it works. Right? So he's got access to modern cloud technology at his or her fingertips. And in terms of a modern software development methodology, we've been working with all of these Silicon Valley disruptors for many years. And I can tell you that most of them don't work in the really pedal to the metal kind of very rapid way that Pivotal tends to work, or that Dieter was describing for Volkswagen. They're working in probably a little bit of a less intense version of that, but they are assuming that change is continuous and that they will change their software continuously. And that alone is a fundamental difference from how software development has been done traditionally and is still done, majority of cases, around the world at large companies. And so if you're being disrupted by these companies and you don't have either of those two things, or more likely you don't have you don't have either of them, let alone both, but then you can't respond to the disruption, right? And you can't begin to think about becoming a disruptor yourselves, right? So those two things are really crucial, and they literally are taken for granted by all of those disrupting companies. So what Pivotal's really about these days is leveling the playing field. And by that we mean, bringing those fundamental assumptions to companies, no matter their size, no matter their history, the age. But we're saying that it is possible that you can learn these and that you can become a disruptor again. So one of the key components for us is what we call a cloud-native platform. It's Pivotal Cloud Foundry. This is an abstraction layer that people can program to that sits above the infrastructure as a service. So it can sit on top of OpenStack, and it can sit on top of Google Compute or Amazon AWS. It can run in a data center, in a private data center, or it can run on a public cloud. And applications that you build can run identically no matter where they're deployed. To talk a little bit more about the software methodology, the modern software methodology, we're combining agile software techniques that have been under development for the last 2 decades. Lean startup techniques is a little more of a recent movement that's been honed in Silicon Valley. And really then putting all of this together into a software methodology that is optimized for change. And one key thing to know about this, and it's not just optimized for a rapidly changing environment or changing software requirements, but it's optimized to change itself. So in doing this software, there are all kinds of feedback loops that are designed to enable the teams to evolve the actual methodology and the company culture as they're using it. So nothing is sacrosanct. And some of the retrospectives that you saw in the Volkswagen lab and many other practices are designed to evolve what's going on. The pair programming is actually people discussing what they're doing and how to solve problems, but not just talking about it, they're debating it. And they're trying to find out, well, what could be better, what's wrong, what could we improve. And it's not just that they're allowed to make changes, but they're expected to make changes. They're expected to enhance what they're doing and improve what everyone's doing and feed that back into the larger system all the time. So one of the things that we do is we're constantly, when we open a new office, we seed it with people and they pair with new people that they hire and they establish the culture, but the culture adapts and it changes and it evolves and they discover new things. And so other offices are evolving in distinct ways as well, so we cross-pollinate. We send people back and forth so that we make sure to take what we've learned in each of these places and bring it back into other parts of the organization. And so it does provide new challenges because things are evolving all the time and you're not stuck in a set of rules. You can push it forward. That means you sort of have a responsibility to bring it back and learn all the time. So new challenges but new opportunities if you work this way. So we talked about some of this stuff before, but it's not just programmers, but it's also product management, it's design, it's data science. We work in this way with all of our disciplines. Right? And then, of course, with modern applications, they are data aware. They are more intelligent applications by being informed by the careful and intelligent analysis of data. So we kind of put it all together, and we have a cloud, we have modern approach, we have data tools, and that's really the main areas in Pivotal that you'll see. This is the focus that we have. And finally, there's one thing that I'd like to leave you with in terms of how we think about the styles of development that are often associated with Silicon Valley. And over the years, I've seen a couple of trends in software development. One is the offshoring, which I think is now starting to come back to co-located teams that are collaborating very heavily together, smaller teams. The other one, though, was a trend that said if you want to do innovation, you have to come to Silicon Valley. And we've done a lot of work with the venture capital firms, and we saw them urging companies, whether they were in New York or London or Tel Aviv or anywhere around the world, well, you've got to go to Silicon Valley if you really want to establish something and become a dominant technology player. And this happened for a number of years. I don't really think that that's the answer. We've found that we can go almost anywhere in the world, or wherever we've gone so far, and we can hire the kind of people who can work in this fashion and who can be very effective. And we haven't seen any difference in the caliber of the teams that we can build in any geography. So this is something that the way I think about it is Silicon Valley is not a place, it's a state of mind. If you look at where we are now, getting to quite a few locations, and all of these offices, if you go there, they have their own personalities, and like I said, they sort of evolve in their own ways, but they are all distinctly and recognizably Pivotal when you go there. And I think it's very powerful to have a culture that you can propagate and you can expand and you can keep consistent and you can allow for individual variation, but you can also keep true to the core tenets of the philosophy that you have as an organization. And one thing that I urge companies to do when they adopt some of the methods that we espouse is that they look at it as a powerful tool for cultural transformation throughout the organization. This kind of very intensive collaboration leads to the possibility to propagate a culture throughout an organization. It's something that companies struggle with to maintain and advance a culture. And all companies do all kinds of things and have offsites and team buildings and whatever. But if you work in this style, you actually really don't need to do any of that. It's just a part of what happens every day, is that the culture is reinforced and propagated. So that's very, very powerful. And so welcome to Pivotal London. And that's it. Thanks for coming today.